Hey, how you doing everybody? My name is Cherryboy and welcome to Kilmonger, a very dark and spooky and brutal visual novel fam, not unlike your other ones. With your waifus, this one has monsters and spookiness like Berserk, if you will. Now let's get right into it fam. Look at that Cthulhu-esque monster. Start. The demon thing. Okay. Screams of pain and horror gradually intensified, becoming louder and more desperate, piercing the heart, passing over the ears. Something, perhaps the souls of people, wailed louder and louder, drowning out the howls of the invisible demons that devoured them piece by piece. A female voice chanted in an unknown language, and her chanting made everything even more horrific. If only she would join the cacophony of screams instead, and remove her black hands from the roaring flames and scarlet mists, pull her charred palm from the deep, dead darkness. She was but one of 100 of hands reaching out to me from the underworld, struggling to grab hold of me, to drag me to the roaring black flame of the void. They couldn't reach me here, but I was somehow drawn to meet them anyway. I'd have felt this before. The hellish flames that burned the shredded fragments of one soul, the black soul of a sinner. Although mine was not a sinner's soul, then why did I feel so frightened? I felt pain, unbearable pain. Unable to bear it any longer, I cried out. Spooky. Very spooky. The towering shelves filled with ancient tomes rose above me. Some of their covers were crafted of wood, some adorned with pieces of engraved metal, and others bound in leather. I didn't even want to think about what kind of skin the leather was made of, especially the book that rested on my knees. I closed the book and stood up from my chair, which was far too soft and cozy for me. I'd asked for a wooden stool instead. Even a handful of pebbles to kneel upon would have been preferable. Then I would not have been tempted to doze off. That was close. I'd almost fallen asleep. My very last slumber. Black hands would have grabbed my centuries-old, endlessly tired body and dragged me down into the underworld, where I belonged. No! I couldn't think about that. I needed to finish what I'd begun. And the Dusal guards barged into the library, spears and halberds at the ready, terrified eyes bulging. Dusal or Ducal? Yeah, no. Did you just cry out, my lord? Oh, Lord have mercy! What a terrifying scream that was! How eloquent, that rascal! Well, of course I wasn't his master. I wasn't even human. At least not according to church canon. Scream! I was merely singing! I had the sudden urge to, belt out a ballad. Because I was bored, and you call it screaming? Was my performance not to your liking? The guard's face grew long from surprise. Well, I guess perhaps it is not my best talent. Next time, should I grow bored, I think I'll dance instead. I placed the book on the chair and lightly tapped my feet, mimicking dance move from my era. I clapped my hands, stretched my arms out, one to the side and the other up, and moved my feet a little forward, almost as if shuffling. Indeed, I shall shuffle the dance and entice them with it. Back to the game. It's serious, it's dark, I swear. The guard had apparently decided that I was doing something ominous, perhaps magically invoking demons with my movements. And he recoiled so quickly that he stumbled into his fellow guards standing behind him. And then the stampede began. The furthest guards were the first to trip over themselves before tumbling down the stairs. How many of them were there? Was it the entire garrison? Well, I better stop. I must not have been thinking clearly. Well, no, of course I wasn't. How many days had I been away from the resurrection? 5, 6? Who knows? It was only in the land of eternal night that I was able to remain forever young forever. There was no need for sleep. The other side gave me power, perhaps enough to ensure that the portal I opened continued to exist, so that the inhabitants from the underworld would continue to accept the sacrifices we Kilmongers offered them. I wasn't particularly fond of the ritual. However, I had vowed that my first victim would be my last. The last, but the most horrific. The sacrifice was required for me to establish a connection to the demonic realm. I rarely traded death, something that is common among Kilmongers. I bargained for life, and was likely the only one who did. I stepped through the door. The guards standing sentry in the corridor frantically backed themselves against the wall, as if terrified of my touch. But there was hardly enough room to move. There were simply too many of them. Greetings, gentlemen! Might I ask, is it common that the entire garrison patrols this floor? Or is it a special case due to my presence? If so, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but the additional guards are useless. Well, perhaps not completely useless. It would only mean more meat for my monsters. My words took effect, and the guards began to disperse. Okay, I'm going off on break, everybody. Well, perhaps scatter is a better word for it. Whatever the case, I was then free to head down to the dining room to say farewell. Okay, yeah, I'm feeling it. Unlike my colleagues, I'd always been a very polite Kilmonger, unique if you will. Sometimes I was even convinced that I could end the centuries-old nightmare, sever the connection between myself and the world of demons. But then I realized it was only another attempt to deceive myself. If that were indeed possible, then I could end it all. I wouldn't have been able to connect to the underworld in the first place. Simply speaking, I was doomed. Doomed to eternal life in the Darklands, or eternal torment in hell. I'd have chosen this path for myself back then. How many centuries ago? It had seemed the only option. But I was now wiser. Wise enough to know that it would have been better if I'd hung myself.
Good morning, sir. Would you care to join us for dinner?
Distracted from his boar leg, the Earl waved his plump hand, smeared with grease at me, then pointed to a seat near him. It was a surprising sign of respect, considering who I was. To his right sat his daughter, a pretty damsel I'd rescued nearly a week prior. Her pale skin did not spoil her beauty, however. On the contrary, it suited her well, giving her quite the aristocratic aura.
Ah, yes, the waifu.
Thank you, sir. My apologies, but it's time for me to depart. I've already overstayed my welcome. I believe it would be preferable if I took dinner on the road. The Earl was hardly able to restrain a sigh of relief.
Cherryboy!
Sharing a dinner with a doomed creature such as myself would have likely killed him. Literally. Besides, I was certain his neighbors wouldn't have been particularly happy upon hearing of it. And that might have led to some unpleasant consequences for the Earl. After all, he was under no obligation to inform anyone of the reason for his hospitality. Indeed. And yet despite it all, I had sworn him to silence. I was fearful that the overly grateful father would have spilled the beans, so to speak. If rumor of my deed reached the church, my license would have been revoked, and with it my exclusive right to leave the reservation. The right that all of my colleagues, the merchants of death, were envious of. That was another reason I was still alive. The church would not have looked kindly upon my murder by a fellow colleague.
Oh, I killed a fellow Kilmonger? Is that what happened?
My death would have halted the supply of food to the Darklands, and considering the Empire's army was no longer comprised solely of humans, it had grown exceedingly strong. Too many demons had been sold to the light side. How easy would it be for things to unravel for them? How short-sighted on their part. How clever on mine. Ooh! When I departed the castle, I was not escorted. In fact, the only people I saw attempted to avoid me as I passed, shouting curses at my back, spitting at my feet, waving their precious amulets at me, the interlocking TT, upon them clearly visible despite my haste. The symbol referred to the twins who were crucified on the double rack, the sons of God, Jesus and Moses. They brandished the symbol of their faith, pleading for protection for the evils of accursed creatures such as myself. Alas, I'd learned to live with it. What else could I do? If I could, I would gladly spit in the face of every murderer from the reservation, hung them upon the rack, tore them in two, the upper half of the body on the left, their legs to the right. Or was it the other way around? How does one choose? Well, either way was fine. Oh, I needed to get home. I was beginning to think nonsense. Home, such a silly concept for a merchant of death. Home for us was a place in the Darklands, a place where our connection to the demonic realm was the strongest. A place where one could easily summon abominations from the underworld. Ooh! And seal them with runegrams, torturing them until they willingly obey the owner of the amulet. A place where time flowed slower, and the cries of the dead were louder and more piercing. However, unlike the others, I wasn't fond of our home. I settled as far away from it as I could. The cries from the abyss were like music to my fellow Kilmonger's ears. I, on the other hand, was never able to get used to it. And I rarely summoned demons into our world. I chose a different vocation. My duty was to explore ways to send those abominations back to hell. I was an exorcist, and apart from the church, no man should ever be privy to that knowledge. That was the deal the patriarch demanded when we concluded our agreement. Not a single soul could know. No one could ever know that the only exorcist on our small continent was a trained Kilmonger, a man who sold his eternal soul to the enemy of mankind, and the enemy of the saviors, Jesus and Moses. And that the clergy themselves were unable to battle the demons, and how could the priests cast them out if they couldn't even see them? How could they learn about them? How could they search for their weaknesses? So I, a former landgrave of the Twilight Lands, Argus de Illuminat, would do it, though I was no longer a landgrave, but a traitor to all mankind, Kilmonger Argus. By evening I had reached the border of the eternal night. The last vestiges of daylight illuminated the skies. I neared the domain.
Ooh, spooky. Oh man, dark, so mysteriously mysterious.
I'm just operating on power or something. Okay, back to the game. And instantly dimmed when I stepped over, forcing me to light my lantern. The lamplight dispersed the darkness a few feet around me, but carried no further. However, I was intent on avoiding the use of the Scarlet Vision for as long as possible. After hundreds of years of traversing them, I knew the roads fairly well. Grey rock, black grass, the occasional bat, formless figures just out of reach that shied away from the lantern's light. That shied away from the lantern's light. But once the oil had finally run out, I was forced to use Scarlet Vision. My eyes. Ugh. Sorry, excuse me. I saw through the bloody fog of that side. I saw the shadows of the black hills and the dead trees, and I heard the cries. Oh, the cries. They always bellow up from the abyss, but were louder within the Scarlet Vision. I lived knowing it was impossible to completely silence them, but I never abandoned the timid hope that I could retain my humanity through it all. Unlike every other Kilmonger who eventually grew mad with their obsessions, they hunted the damned with the zeal of true fanatics, savagely torturing them before feeding the condemned to their personal guardians, or ritually sacrificing them while creating homunculi. Oh god, these people are crazy! However, some doomed souls were spared to serve as slaves for their new masters, a fate they likely regretted, as their masters were often inclined to ripping out their fingernails when they weren't hammering spikes through their subjects' flesh in an attempt to alleviate their own boredom. Oh my god! It's dark! I sometimes took part in the hunt, chasing and capturing a few of the doomed ones for my own. They would live and work for me in my castle, and then I would kill them. I would have preferred to let them go, but freedom was no better than death. They wouldn't have lasted long in the darkness of the eternal night, and with the mark of the condemned branded upon their faces, only death awaited them in the Lightlands. But I needed to hunt. I could not risk my colleagues discovering that I had no army of homunculi guarding my castle. If they knew, I would be killed and my castle looted by right of the powerful. In that, we were no different from the inhabitants of the Lightlands. Once I reached the hills of Behemoth, I'm pretty sure that's a demon name, I veered off into a side that bypassed the forest proper. The road was much more dangerous, but did not hold unpleasant memories for me. Not 5 years prior, those hills were nameless. And then the hunt happened. I had left my castle to maintain the illusion that I was a ruthless killer and skilled hunter, riding upon Grey's strong back, like a horse. As a demon, Grey was rather weak. All he was good for was carrying a rider, such as myself, and nipping at unarmed assailants, something of which other Kilmongers needn't be aware. They were entirely unfamiliar with Grey. They knew not if he was young or lucky, or that his real name was actually Grey's Model, and besides myself, none of them had ever summoned him. Grey's Model? Or Grey's Model? Probably Model. Ooh. Oh good, I don't like how those look. Oh, forgive me, Lord. The first time we met, I remember being completely drunk. Helplessly drunk. And so I decided to summon a crazed demon, an infernal creature I could inflict pain upon in vengeance for my own torment. But I was so inebriated that I couldn't even pronounce its name properly. In my drunken stupor, I uttered what amounted to gibberish. Grismodal! And yet the call was answered. Oh, there he is, Demon Dog. Oh god, like Full Metal. Standing in the center of the pentacle runegrim was a huge twilight beast. It looked to me and wagged its tail, like a dog. And I'm ashamed to admit, the very moment I first beheld him, all thoughts of vengeance completely vanished from my mind. Let me hide that fame. Hide. CG, kind? I don't want that to be the CG. No, please, no. I broke the protective circle, which was tantamount to suicide, and sat close to the beast. I then began to pet its long, droopy ears, which were surprisingly soft to the touch, and so I sat embracing the hound, sharing the details of my dreadful life, until I finally sobered up. I later forged him an amulet, not Demon Bane, but a simple runegrim for communication, so that I could summon my hellhound at will. I even shortened his unpronounceable name to Grey, since he obeyed my commands no matter what I called him. Perhaps it was because he thought of me as a friend. He never even demanded human sacrifices. Any bone sufficed as his chew toy, and when he grew tired of our world, he simply returned to his own. But it seemed to me that he enjoyed my company much more than that of his brethren. It was at that time that I began questioning the very nature of demons. Ooh, spooky. And so we were hunting a convicted murderer. At least that is what the wheel carved into his back had told me. Murderers were often broken upon the wheel. He was a tough one. I admired his grit. Once they enter the Darklands, men instantly lose their minds and wander frantically as they scream in terror, ending their lives at the bottom of the fog-shrouded ravines. But our convict was lucid and aware, moving intently and silently as he listened to the environment around him. He only sped his pace when we were close to reaching him. Of course, like all ordinary men, he cannot see a thing, but he eluded capture surprisingly well. All considering, I imagine he had experience fleeing through forests under the cover of night. Perhaps he had even hoped to reach the reservation. If so, it was a foolish sentiment. Gray would have been able to catch him in 2 single bounds, but I restrained the beast, unsure of what to do with the victim. On the one hand, such a skilled fellow might prove useful to me, but on another, the murderer could dispatch me with nothing more than a candlestick if he found the opportunity. Not even the Dark Lands would protect me from such a fate. I had been stabbed in the back by my servants more times than I cared to count. Former servants. Suddenly I heard a woman scream from beyond the hill. I'd become used to such cries over the centuries, but this one, it almost sounded childlike. I then thought back to Annie. My 12-year-old daughter was an angel. Well, at least that's how I chose to remember her. What little of her memory remained, the many years lost at the abyss of time had clearly erased her image from my mind. All that was left was the unbearable pain of loss. One day, without permission, she had run off to play with some of the servant children. The little passed aside to fool around near the reservation's border, throwing stones through the wall of darkness. It was a game of sorts. I later learned from the frightened and crying children that they were playing. That as they were playing, a man wearing the mantle of a Kilmonger emerged from the darkness and pulled a terrified Annie back in within him. I never saw her again after that day. That memory decided the murderer's fate. I leaned over and whispered an order to Gray. Hearing the command, the demon growled loudly and leapt forward, and the man's composure finally evaporated. They got him. He wailed, bent forward, and pissed himself before Gray smashed his head into a nearby tree, knocking him unconscious. The man wasn't worth killing. With no time to reflect upon things, I sent the demon in the direction of the woman's cries. Yeah, boy, what the heck is going on? It was Carl's demon. I immediately recognized Behemoth despite the distance. The gigantic silhouette of a demon with huge tusks and horn towered over the woman. Her head dangled limply and swayed to the rhythm of the powerful thrusts. He's eating her! She perished in terrible agony, her body torn into by the giant... oh god! Oh, which lustful monster, the demon had already consumed her soul, and once he was done entertaining himself with the body, he would devour it whole. It was too late to do anything. Can you see anything? Can I see anything? Oh god, yeah, you can kind of sort of see something. I'm not gonna show that. Okay. Oh god, this is terrifying. It's like Berserk! Which, I mean, I guess it's kind of doing its job right. My god. Hearing another child cry out, I quickly scanned the area. Oh no! A little girl! In that cursed scarlet fog, Cal's silhouette appeared as black as the body of a demon. Perhaps it was just the color of his Kilmonger garb, or was it a reflection of his black soul, assuming he even had one. Behemoth was Cal's eternal guardian. They were two of a kind, filthy sadists, twisted murderers. They desired the same thing, to rape and kill. I wondered, did Cal devour the flesh of his victims as well? I would not be surprised if he did. The Kilmonger was now focused on tearing his victim's dress from her body as the girl screeched and struggled. Smack! Stop! The girl stumbled and fell back. Cal reached for her and dropped on his knees. Appearing right next to her, he laughed, drunk with his hunt, his power over his victims, the darkness within him. The girl was doomed as well, and I couldn't do anything. Cal had protection of Behemoth, and that fiend is at least 10 times stronger than my doggy! But it was Cal's right. He just does the same as any other Kilmonger now. And they are hunting and killing the first batch of their quarry, the ones that were convicted to death, those who were driven in the Darklands by the Imperial Guard. They kill for their own amusement, and to sate the hunger of their 6-mouth-long guard. Once they are fed, they leisurely catch and enslave the rest of the damned, periodically reducing their numbers via ritual sacrifice. At that moment, I noticed 2 things. Behemoth growled, nearly reaching his climax. I could hear the bones of his victim crack loudly, her flesh ripping apart even more. And I saw Cal's amulet on his back. I assumed the bulky medallion interfered with his activities, which is why he hung it from a chain on his back so we could move freely. Acting quickly, I lunged from Gray's back, grabbed the rune engraved medallion, and hastily chanted the words, Behemoth, by your master's call, the one who possesses your bane, I command you to never again kill another human! Having finished the command, I quickly dropped the amulet, jumping onto Gray's back and dashed away. Got him. Did it work? Behemoth, who was about to finish, stopped. He was unable to disobey the call of the one who possessed the amulet. His body remembered all too well the pain inflicted by the runes of that abhorrent metal, on the piece of iron that protected its owner from the demon's fury. Got him. Behemoth jumped the dead woman's ravaged body and rushed towards the man who he thought had given such an abominable order. His demonic eyes smoldered with rage. If not for the amulet, he would have already torn his former comrade apart. But Cal must have realized what I had done. He quickly shoved the girl away and began reaching for the medallion on his back. With the amulet in hand, he would have been able to inflict such pain upon the demon, torment far worse than anything he had ever experienced in hell. I couldn't let Cal do that to the beast. Time was short, and so I quickly pulled out a hooked grapple I always carries with me, and flung it towards Cal's back. The hook lashed onto the medallion, and with one solid pull, it broke its chain. Seeing that a subjugator had lost the demon bane, the demon quickly realized that human could no longer harm him. Oh jeez, and it ate him. Having been interrupted from the beast's favorite pastime, Behemoth had the perfect idea on how to enact revenge on the pathetic piece of meat that had kept him enslaved for so many years. In but a single leap, the demon reached his target, but Cal frantically lunged away at the last moment. Fortunately, that only made things easier for the beast. Got him. Grabbing his prey from behind, Behemoth easily bent the man over, lifted up his robe, and pulled down his trousers. And then continued what he had not finished with the dead woman, despite having no intention of killing the recipient of his carnal desire. The act was even more horrific than mere murder. Oh God, it's so dark. Lord, forgive me. The girl whom Cal had accosted quickly scurried away on all fours, away from the agonizing screams of the Kilmonger who was being raped to death. Surprisingly, she moved quite briskly. She wouldn't have been able to see a thing in the absolute darkness, but the sounds echoing from all around her must have scared her close to death. I was amazed that she hadn't fainted out of fear. Wait, child, stop! It's all over now. At least for you. Oh, Jesus! That's not what I meant. You'll be fine. I'll protect you, I promise. I unhooked the grapple from Cal's amulet and approached the frightened but unharmed girl. She had curled up into a ball with her eyes squeezed shut. Not that I blamed her. She wouldn't have been able to see anything if she had them open. I removed the blanket from Gray's back, wrapped the child within it, and gently placed her in front of me on the demon's back, and she sobbed the entire way back to my castle. And there's Cal dead with his head. Behemoth devoured the woman and the head of his former master. He left the man's ravaged body as torn apart and pointing up to the dark sky for all others to behold. Oh God! Those who discovered the body came to the conclusion that the demon somehow freed itself from the Kilmonger's control and took vengeance on the man by performing his favorite activity upon him. Of course, they do nothing but the last order given to the beasts. Behemoth's name was known to all. He was one of the most powerful ones already bound to the demon bane. Any Kilmonger could have summoned him if he so wished, but none dared. The image of what was left of the demon's previous master was forever burned into their eyes. I believe rumors of Cal's fate even reached the Lightlands, giving humans a horrific new story to tell. One even more viable and terrible than the tales spun about Kilmongers. Oh God! In the end, Cal's former colleagues merely plundered his castle. I did not participate in the looting. I did not participate in the looting. Why would I? Cal didn't even have a single ancient tome in his entire library. And so we're back here. A huge black shadow dashed towards me as soon as I crossed the threshold of my dreary dwelling. Its movements were too fast for me to react to. How you doing, Gray? Okay, fam, so... Kilmonger. It's dark, it's like Berserk, it's a dark anime-like thing, visual novel, you know? Very different from your normal visual novels with lovey-dovey stuff. This is dark and very Berserk-like things. And stuff other just dark animes have. Oh God. Yeah, that was spooky. Oh God, terrifyingly horrible. Forgive me, Lord. Anyway. So that was Kilmonger. It was a game I wanted to play for a while, but I just couldn't really get into the mood to do it. But I'm glad I was able to finally do it now. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this, please like below. And if there's any of the game, what do you guys think of the game? You guys like it? Want to see more? I want to finish it. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this, please like below. And if there's any other games like for players you want to talk, please comment down below as well. If you'd like to like some more, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bells. That'd be epically appreciative, guys. And as always, my name is Cherryboy, and my goal in life is to make you guys smile. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Yeah. Bye. See ya. And if you haven't already, join the Discord, fam. The link to it is in the description below. As always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye. See ya.
What's gonna happen next time? Kilmonger, very spooky and dark and berserk. And now we saved this little girl from the evil villain Cal. And now Cal is dead and his demon, I guess, is just on the loose now. So that's not good. But let's find out what happens next time on Kilmonger. Yeah. Or dark, so.
It's dark. It's really dark and spooky.
Spooky.